Welcome back. My name is Amy Stair, and I'm the CEO of Star Power. And you know what? One of the privileges of being the CEO is I'm involved with the selection of the stars. And what an honor it was to get to make the call to this gentleman, Jim Cleveland, who's out of Decatur, Illinois. Jim, thank you for relenting and saying yes. I'm so excited to have you here, and I can't wait for people to hear your story.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here beyond belief.
Well, let me start by saying Decatur, Illinois is not a large town.
No,
right?
It's not.
Current population?
About 72,000.
Okay. So.
And headed down.
Headed down.
Going the wrong way.
Corporate relocation away from Decatur.
Yeah, we've gone down about 10,000 in the last 10 years.
Interesting. Well, we'll talk about how that's impacted your real estate business. But before we jump into that, Jim, I would really love for you to give a bit of your history, because I think it really informs how you've chosen to practice real estate. So where the heck did you come from?
Well, I'm a little farm boy from South Dakota. Got lost, got in the cemetery business. Well, it was after college. My goal after graduating college was to never have a job. And so far, I've succeeded quite well at that. And got in the pots and pans business, sold pots and pans, cookware. Great job for a single guy, because you're always talking to single working girls, and that was a good thing. Then I got into the cemetery business because it was so much easier doing pre-need sales, because they set up all the appointments. All I had to do was do the closing. So I was just the closer, go get your leads and go out and you call on 2 or 3 people a night and close the deals and go home. And that was good. Ended up in Minneapolis. My third month there, they moved me to head sales manager. 8 months later, another buddy and I, we decided to partner up and go start a company. Ended up in Decatur, Illinois. And 3 months after that, I fired him. And then I took over and had my 3-year contract. And the guy told me he was trying, my guy that hired me to do the cemetery actually tried to get in on all kinds of other things that I was doing too. And I said no, and legally he couldn't, because I was in insurance, securities, et cetera, and showing people how to pay for everything. And he says, you're not going to quit because you're making too much money. I says, trust me, I'll quit. Just don't call my bluff. He called my bluff, so I quit. I went into real estate and sold real estate franchises for 1 year, negotiated a contract with Realty World, realized that if I was ever going to be in the real estate business, I was going to have, if I was going to own a company, it would be a RE/MAX office, because I didn't want to train a bunch of people. And so then I ended up going, a year later, got into real estate. And I mean, I was a huge success right out of the gate. I made $8,000 my first year. That was back in 1988. And then I made $12,000 my second year, though.
Ooh, 50% increase.
I was on a cruise there, and then I told my wife at the time, I said, well, that's it. I guess I'll go to work if I'm going to actually be in this stupid business. And so my third year in real estate, I became the #1 agent in our town. Sold 55 transactions that year by myself, average sales price $39,000.
Ouch.
Man, I was after it. And then the next year, we were having a talk with our broker, and there's a group of us, and you know how you get those little glass ceilings, and he said he was going to do all these things. That's when technology was kind of coming into play. Mm-hmm. And my wife at the time was a computer programmer analyst, so I had a lot of help on the technology side, not me doing the technology. I always just delegated out. And I said, well, we'll do these things. And all these agents said, well, what are you going to do if he doesn't do it? I says, you're all big boys and girls. You can make your own decisions. 9 months later, he hadn't done a damn thing. Got approached by a RE/MAX franchise salesperson and bought a franchise, didn't have a broker's license, didn't have a place to go, nothing. Just jumped in with both feet. Went out to Denver to the orientation, turned around, came back, told my broker I bought a franchise. I said, I'll stay and keep working. I said, I got to get a license. You know, I got to figure out what I'm doing here. And he says, well, I don't know. And I said, well, you just let me know if you want me to stay or go. And he came back, and it's right after Thanksgiving. He goes, well, I think it's best you not be here. So, but I will help you get your broker's license. So he helped me get my books and told me what to do. So the month of December, I crammed all online stuff. Well, not online, it was a book. And I hate to read. I was like some other stars that I know that, graduating in that top, I was in that half of the class to make that top half possible.
Oh, okay.
So I just want you to know that. I got my broker's license, found a place to go, but I had to remodel the whole thing. So it took us 5 months to remodel. And so I really didn't do anything for those 5 months except help build out this space. And then June 1st of 92 opened the RE/MAX office. And it was me, myself, and I, and my secretary, and had a couple other agents that said they would come as soon as I opened. That's right. So they came in October.
Oh, wow.
But then I got 8 people right away. And part of going into that business, by the way, was back in the early part of, like in January when I was trying to open, I put together my whole 5-year business plan with performance, the whole 9 yards. Went in and I talked to the bankers, and I talked to another banker and another banker. And finally I got to this last banker that I was talking to, and he says, we'd love to do something with you, but, we just really can't do anything. By the way, what makes you think a RE/MAX is going to even survive here? He goes, the last one was here, failed back in the 70s. And I looked at him and I says, you ever seen a Mercedes? He goes, yeah. I said, you ever see one in a collision center? He goes, yeah. And I said, car or driver? He goes, point well made. 6 months later, when I recruited all those, then I had every banker calling me, hey, whatever you want, just call us. We're here to help, So be careful. Don't blow up your bridges, because you may have to come back across them.
Good advice. I'm also hearing incredible persistence.
A little bit.
Has that been part of you your whole life?
I'd say yes, because, I hate repeating what some other stars have ever said, but I was also voted least likely to succeed in business. And
I think we have a new club inside the club we need to create.
I'm telling you, I think we should start that club. So it was, from that standpoint, and now it's kind of fun to go back to my little town in South Dakota, population 420 people. There were 42 people in my graduating class, and that was Lyman County. That was the entire county.
Wow.
And so interesting just to see where some of them are today. Well, seeing where all of them are today.
I think we all have that little bit of.
Yeah, so a little bit of a grudge about, let's go.
And it continues. You are not going to be deterred. So you had said to me at one point, for people getting into this business, just be prepared to fail. What did you mean by that?
Well, you learn a lot more from failure than you do success. Because every time something works out, you go, oh, look how good I was. BS, Actually, when you go and you fail, then you have to look in retrospect and say, what did I do wrong? What could I have done different? Now you become the problem solver and trying to figure out what it is so that you don't do the same mistake again. Mm-hmm. Because in business, as a lot of people know, if you keep making the same stupid mistakes, you get broke really, really quick.
Yes.
And that's the same way in investing in real estate and everything. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of that. But you learn from failure.
So with the brokerage, I'm sure you had your failures along the way. You also built a very successful brokerage. What were some of the fail forward moments as a part of running a brokerage as opposed to just being in the business?
Well, as far as the failing, it's more about the determination to keep going after it. And then you reach, I reach plateaus, and then I coast because I'm not, some people want to go on to the greatest things in the world, and some of us just want to go up to a really really comfortable level and then coast. The problem with coasting is things die off as you go. Mm-hmm. So, like, I had not recruited agents for 20 years plus, actually, before my accident. So, some of that can be pros and cons, just depending, because then you move more like going back to being maybe a solo agent, or in my case, small team, which I had a larger team at one time and now a smaller team, more productive with a smaller team because you learn different things. But so I guess some of the failures would be more in the, what not to do. I mean, and building a team in the beginning, the first thing I would tell anybody to do is never hire yourself. In other words, never hire another buyer's agent, somebody to go help you sell real estate. That is, hire an admin person that likes doing paperwork.
Tell us what happened when you hired that first admin person.
Well, the first admin was a buyer's agent, crash. Second one was a buyer's agent, crash. Third one, my wife was pregnant, and I decided, okay, I'm going to hire an admin person. I'll give up that $30,000, $40,000 a year in our market to pay for somebody so that I can be home. And I figured, okay, if I give that up out of myself, I can handle that. And when I did, what happened is I went up by 80,000 instead of down by 40. So that was a huge enlightenment. But it was at the same time I'd been to a broker owner conference, and the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And I came home, and the best thing I ever did then was I took 13 weeks in a row on a Friday morning from 9 till noon. I took no calls, made no calls, just 100% worked on the business, not in the business. So at that point, then I just created all my systems. And a lot of those systems today I run on the same systems tweaked over the last 30 years, but you just keep tweaking them as you go.
So if you had a new recruit in the building today, what are the systems you'd tell them they need to have in place first?
Well, the first thing I would tell a new person generally would be get on a team versus be a solo agent.
And why is that?
Well, because if you get on the team, now you've got a team leader that might get a good team leader, because you want somebody that will help mentor them, help walk them through the steps. Yes, you're going to throw them a bone now and then, but you're also going to have to kick them in the butt once in a while to get going and let them know that, it's just not a gravy train.
Right.
Now the last few years, I'm telling you, it was a gravy train.
Yeah.
Which is really bad for new agents coming into the business a lot of times, because they get on the gravy train and they think everything is just that way. They've never gone through the cycles of the ups and downs. They didn't go through the 2008 crash. They didn't go through the late 90s, the 9/11. When everything changes, everything changes.
And it will continue to be so in this industry.
Yeah. The only thing constant in life is change.
For sure. So now let's say you've recruited that seasoned agent who's 5 years in the business, but they are just on struggle mode. Do you recommend that they go get a team? Do you recommend that they get leverage? Talk to me as
I'll recommend they get on and try to get some more knowledge. In other words, go to Star Power Conference. Go get involved in things, because that's one of the things we don't see today because of all the social media and everybody wants to do everything on their phone. There's no social interaction, so to speak. I mean, when I was starting out, we did a ton of stuff with the Chamber of Commerce and we were talking about different organizations to be involved in. And like I got in the Ambucks organization, and we raised money for handicap and stuff like that. And I was in the cemetery business at the time. So I obviously got in the business for the right reason, and it wasn't to try to solicit business by no means. So if you get in with organizations, get in for the right reason, and then do the work. The business will always come. People will hire you because you're busy. So I will tell them to get involved in things, expand their sphere of influence. One of my brokers told me, STP, you got to see the people. Because if you don't see the people, they're not coming.
You said you have to be busy for people to hire you. And I think people have the flip side in their brain. They have to look like they're not busy, like, you'll be my only customer.
And
I've heard people
totally
actually say
disagree.
That. So let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words. So when somebody says, I got all the time in the world for you, and then you go call them, you've got some of those friends, everybody does, and then the moment you call them, they're busy. What are they doing? They're on the couch watching TV or something, But busy people are generally not home. And so in that particular case, they're out involved in the community, different things. At one time, I was on 8 different boards. I wouldn't recommend that. That's highly stupid. But you are visible in the community. And as Howard always used to say, he says, hey, just go to the grocery store. And if you can walk down the grocery aisle and somebody doesn't say hi to you, you know you got more room for marketing. And so that's, just pretend like you're running for mayor.
There you go. We're going to talk about how your team has evolved, but I think in order to do that, we need to talk about your accident, if you're willing. So, profile, if you will, what the team looked like at that height when things were going really well and you were getting ready to go on vacation.
Well, I get emotional about it, but
Totally okay.
there were, let me see how many people did I have on my team. I think I had 5 people, 4 or 5, we'll call them buyer agents. And then I had 2 admin people for helping run everything. 1 main one and then a part-timer. And the thing was, is when I left, I left like any vacation, you just go and
how many agents in the office at that time?
There were 16 in my office at the time, and there were 16 when I came back. So the biggest thing out of all of them was having systems, as far as the company was concerned, because everything we did was systematic. All my listing packets, seller packets, everything we have is just the goal was that if somebody gets hit by the train, they're not coming back. Can somebody else get on the tracks and run? And so that part I obviously had in place, and I wouldn't recommend testing it that way. But so I was out skiing. You probably wanted to know I will share the story, and hopefully I can get through it really quick. I'm so used to selling it so fast that then I don't get as emotional. But I was out in Lake Tahoe up in Kirkwood. I was high-speed racing on the backside with a buddy. And
What does that mean, high-speed racing?
Most skiers ski like 15 to 25 mile an hour, never hit 30 in their lifetime. And I cleared a ridge at 51, and the fastest I was on skis ever was 57 that I'm aware of. I even skied with Jim Philo, who was a 1979 Olympian, and his motto was "turns are overrated."
Oh.
And he had the skis for that because he had the long skis while I was just skiing on real high performance skis and stuff. But anyway, cleared this ridge, and it was one of those oh crap moments. Nowhere to go, and I got catapulted about 20 feet in the air and 20 feet forward, came down on my back, all busted to crap. So I tell everybody I didn't break an arm or a leg. I was lucky there, but from the other aspects of it, from my waist to my neck, I broke every rib in my body but 3 front and back, 21 out of 23, or out of 4. Broke my back between the T3 and T10 and crushed the spine. That's why they didn't think I'd ever walk again if I lived. So I got steel plates, rod screws, and cadaver bone there. Broke my left shoulder, got steel plates, screws there. Severed the sternum, messed up both clavicles, both scapulas, collapsed lung, lacerated spleen, aorta, valve rupture on the liver, cutting off blood flow, serrated kidney, and a minor concussion. Other than that, I was in great shape. So
You must be fun going through airports. That's all I can say.
Hey, they put titanium in me, so I have no issues going through that way. But I spent 3 months, a little over 3 months in Reno, 5 weeks in a coma. First 2 weeks, they didn't think I'd live. Then they took 2 liters of fluids off my lungs, and one of the lungs started to inflate. They thought, well, maybe we'll save him. 3 weeks later, they took me out. I'm still trach, took me to rehab. I was literally laying in a bed, and I couldn't lift my hands higher than about here, so I couldn't feed myself or nothing. And it all started from there. So I started from ground zero. They put me in the wheelchair and take me into rehab, and I was Gumby on a little string. I was there because I couldn't do nothing, and they put weight on your feet and just started over. And I went 2 years of rehab for 4 days a week to do that, just to get my left foot to move. So anyway, we always said, hey, at least my mouth didn't get broken. And And all my close friends
We're
said,
going to ask Diane about that later.
well, I said that, and at least I didn't get scrambled eggs, but all my close friends reminded me, they said, Jim, you got scrambled eggs before you went skiing. So I said, all right, fair enough. So that's kind of where I started, came back.
So forget
Everybody
Harry
was there.
Potter. You are the boy who lived. Like, shouldn't even be here.
Probably not.
How has that
But-
changed your perspective?
Well, as I got divorced in 19, but prior to that, this happened in 12. And so my former wife says, I thought you were going to stop and slow down and smell the roses. She goes, all you did was speed by the damn roses as you smelled them. So I really didn't slow down all that much. I mean, I was in a wheelchair for a while, and then I was in a walker, and then I went to a golf club for a walking stick. And then I went to a walking stick, so that's what I use today. But no, I just never give up. When I go visit houses, people go, can you go up the steps? Can you do that? And I go, therapy. Everything I do is therapy. So whether I'm getting in my Corvette and I go, therapy car, it's therapy to get in and out of them. Anything like that. So it's just another challenge, just one more step.
So if we can take a step back in time just for a moment, those 3 months you were in Reno, you left top of the market on your game with real estate. Now you cannot do anything but focus on recovery. What was happening back in Decatur?
I have no idea. No, truly, I think they ran the whole show because I did not take or make a call for over 4 months.
Wow.
So, systems. I don't care if you're single agent, team, office, whatever, have your systems in place because those are the things that the tracks run on. And so everybody, they huddled together. They did what they needed to do to make sure. The only thing I really lost during that period of time is at that time I was carrying about 43 listings. And when I come back, I had 23. We still listed a bunch more in the time, the come list me's and stuff like that. But as far as being the main rainmaker, getting out and getting more business all the time had slowed down. But I picked it right back up and
Of course you did.
ended up, we still sold 72 transactions that year. And I was out of the commission for, March 2nd through most of the year, not quite all the year. I got back in towards the end of Christmas stuff.
Wow.
I would still be out there doing a little bit.
So that leads us in then to the evolution of the team. You made a decision at some point that running this brokerage with all these people, talk to me about the evolution of from where you were to where you are today.
Well, where I'm at today, I have 3 primary team buyer agents, listing agents. I just started having them do listings in the last year, so I want them to, eventually I want them to just take over the whole dang business. And Taylor, he's been with me 18 years, I think now.
Wow.
So he's my lead. And Andrea, she's been with me 5 years, just crossed. And Amber's been with me 3 years, I think it is now. And then Malia is my admin person. She's been with me going on 3 years, I think, coming up now. I lost my main admin person a few years ago after she'd been with me for 27 years.
Wow.
So had to start that all over, and that's kind of hard because nobody picks up the speed for handling that many transactions. We did 162 last year. That was our down year, 182 the year before. And you got one admin person trying to stay on top of all that stuff. It's tough.
A lot.
It's a lot. And then I have my half-time admin person that does a lot of my technology, my Facebook postings, things of that nature. They go out and measure the houses, take pictures. I don't do anything. I talk. I take a file, give it to them, tell them what I need, and they do it, give it back to me, and they take, everything.
But there's talent in the talk, Jim. Let's not discount what you are capable of doing.
Yeah. I'm a good delegator.
That I recognize, definitely, all along the way.
So I've been very fortunate that part in my type of business and stuff. But I'm involved in a lot of other things, just because I like to have a lot of fun too.
I know that also to be
Adrenaline junkie.
clearly. So as you have evolved this team and you're looking at your what's next, you said you have started training the buyer agents to list. What's the shift in mindset that happened for you that allowed you to take that next step? Because a lot of people are still holding those reins really tight.
Well, one thing would be is, okay, I was divorced in 19. Well, I met this young lady 2 years ago now. Matter of fact, our anniversary is next week. We got married last year at this time. So everything kind of changed. I was like, oh boy, new life. Here we go. And we traveled all over. We were gone last year. Oh my God. We were gone a lot. We've been gone a lot this year, not thinking about it, but we have been. But last year, I was probably gone a week or so, a month at least. And we still, rocked. We ended up number one in our market again last year. And so I'm wanting them to eventually just take over. So my mind shift was to move to the side more and let them take over. Mm-hmm. And then I end up going back to Star Power again this year for the first time since, 2008? Mm-hmm. Was it when Howard had the last one? And I was at every single Star Power with the exception of 3 from his very first one in Aspen for couples only, clear to the end. And man, he was the mentor for me. And now you are. And with the Star Power Club, and I was always at the Star Power. I mean, I crashed every damn Star Power party there was.
Yeah, every time we had a newcomer reception, here comes Jim Cleveland. I'm like, you have not been a newcomer for a decade. He's like, I know, but I'm helping the newcomers acclimate. I'm welcoming them. I'm like, okay, just go do what you need to do, Jim.
And so I was around all the stars all the time, and I used to room with Vince Seymour and.
Wow, now you're dating yourself.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, because he retired long time ago.
So you're back and you're at it, and you still have this childlike quality about you when it comes to the business. But you also are involved in a lot of other things, as you said. I really would love for you have spent a lot of time studying and doing and growing on the investment side of things. And I think there's a lot that people can learn from that. So if we could, let's kind of start with getting started with that very first house.
Oh, my very first house, there's somebody else that mentioned a house at this price. My very first house cost me $9,000. I put $1,000 down, cost me $100 a month on a contract for deed, and I rented it for $200 a month. It was a little it was 420 square foot efficiency house.
Those are so popular now. You've got the original tiny home.
So popular. And the garage was 400 square foot because in Decatur, you can't have a garage larger than the house. So that was my first investment, and that was before I ever got into real estate. So what's the drive there? If we're giving, you're going to turn to somebody else and say, you need to do this. Why? Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. Start out. We always talk about paying ourselves first, and people go, I don't have any money to pay myself first. Well, I did a lot of stuff with Tommy Hopkins and the Official Guide to Success for anybody that's ever listened to all the cassette tapes that go with that. I've listened to that numerous times, but even on my honeymoon in 1984, we listened to every damn tape on the way and on our honeymoon, which is ludicrous, people would say, but I'm an information junkie. I want to learn more. So I did a lot of stuff on real estate investing, even though I didn't have any. Listen to that, but I wrote down our 10-year goals and where we wanted to be, our lifetime goals and everything. I still pull that out today. And
how important is goal setting?
Oh, very, very. Writing it down is even more important. Mm-hmm. And I don't write them down as much today as I did. I'm going back to that because kind of like as we shift and move through, and I think I'm going to retire out. Well, if I'm going to retire out, I better set the goals for retiring out. And how's that going to look? I actually have a plan in my head of how that's going to look, but writing it out will definitely move it to the side.
Well, now you told all of us, so you have some large amount of accountability. You
I
didn't have
know that
before.
sucks, but we'll move in that direction somewhat but I still have the book of business and be able to pass it on and the referrals. And I don't mind picking up the phone. I mean, my whole life has been one more call. That's going to be the name of my book. So if somebody wants to steal it before I ever write it, somebody's got to teach me how to write first. But that's really it. I was at the office. I used to do that all the time.
You don't have to write. All you have to do is talk,
Just talk,
record
let
it, and
somebody
someone
else do
else
it.
will ghostwrite
Well,
it.
somebody can maybe help me do that someday. But back to the investing. Started out, my goal was to buy one house a year for 20 years.
Okay.
And then I figured in 20 years after that, everything would be paid for, 20 houses. Figure out the math, just where do you want to be? Hey, there you go. You got 20 grand a month coming in, if that's the model that you happen to be running on. And I go, I could live with that. So I
How are
started
you
out.
getting the resources to do that? I think
Well,
your approach is
I first started out I failed forward all the time. I mean, I just crash and burn, screw it up, lose money, all those types of things, because I didn't have a mentor in the investment field.
Mm-hmm.
But then I learned more and stuff. I ended up going to Robert Kiyosaki's program. Matter of fact, I owned everything, went to all things, spent $50,000 to buy his program, and then went on and spent another $75,000 going to everything. But that's one of the keys. Like, okay, I go to Star Power every year. Went to Robert Kiyosaki. I went to like everything I could pretty much go to. I budgeted $25,000 a year towards education. And I figured I'll go learn something somewhere from somebody. And then just implemented that, started buying the houses. Then I learned later on my little method, which is not new by no means. Anybody that's been in it will do BRRRR, which is buy, rehab, rent, refi.
so BRRR is what he's saying. Brr.
BRRRR. So I started doing that because I had to have a little bit of money to get started, but generally not. Hell, get a line of credit, use a bunch of credit cards, whatever. There's ways to start, but you got to start, and that's the key. And most people sit on the fence forever and never start. Mm-hmm. Fear that they're going to lose money. Oh man, well, what if they don't pay rent? Well, if they don't pay the rent, you get to make the mortgage payment anyway. Oh crap. How am I going to do that? Well, figure it out, but jump in and get going.
Okay, so you got the first one, buy, rehab, rent, refi. So you're now leveraging.
I was about to 10 at that point.
Okay.
And then I started doing that program.
Okay.
And, I'm just a little bitty minnow in a bucket these days, but still we're doing okay. We got 100 and some doors. But I got commercial properties every.
That doesn't sound like a minnow to me, Jim. I'm just saying.
Storage facilities is my number one thing. I love tenants, no toilets. And they're awesome. So I got a huge
TNT, you can add to your acronyms.
I know.
And it's no toilets.
That's right. So just building on that, I had a real good friend of mine about 4 years ago when COVID was just starting. We had come back from Vegas at another conference and a thing, and we started talking, and I says, well, you need to get into real estate. And he goes, you keep telling me that. So I spent over the next 3 years, I helped him acquire over 30 properties, moved to over $10,000 a month in positive cash flow with fully leveraged properties.
Wow.
So today he plays golf all the time, sold his one business, still runs a couple of his other technology businesses, but that's allowed him to go on and do what he wanted to do. And
For sure. So 100 doors is a lot to manage.
Yeah,
How are you managing 100 doors?
I have an ex-wife.
You need to elaborate on that because that doesn't quite add up in my head.
Well, what actually happened? Okay, we had all our different businesses, you have your Remax business. Okay, that's going good. You're buying all your rentals. Well, your rentals, after you get to about 20, it's like, oh crap, I don't have time to manage all these and that. At that time, well, let's start a property management company because now you need to have staff and whatever. So we ended up doing that. Well, then when we got divorced, I gave her that company and a bunch of other stuff. And she still manages them all today.
And you guys get along well? And
We get along great, well, we still yell at each other all the time like normal, like we did when we were married. But no, we get along great in the business. We were great business people, and that was pretty much the end of it. You can talk to any of my staff about that. But now I got this awesome wife that we just travel and have fun. And now we're in the second chapter of life. And so as long as I can push all that stuff over there, so basically delegate that crap out.
What can you share about what you learned in developing the property management business? Because I've had a lot of people ask about that over the years.
What to develop? Well, first of all, when you go have an accident and then you come back, and in that business had a friend that was helping, ex-friend, and we got embezzled to a little over $500,000.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a nice hurdle to have to overcome. And she got filed as a class 1 felony and never got put in jail, and supposed to pay us $20 a month for the rest of her life. And I think we've received $20 so far in the last like 8-10 years.
Wow.
So keep a real good eye on your books, on how it's working. Even when you think you've got it managed, there's people out there that know how to do stuff that you just never dream of. But yeah, I don't know, building a property management company is, you got to have a team members to put together, and you got to have your staff and, to take care of all the little stuff. The biggest thing is having everything ready on speed dial so that you can take care of it right away. Don't let it fester, because if it festers, it gets worse. And
in terms of repairs and
everything, just eat the frog and move on. And same way in real estate though too. Mm-hmm. I mean, something goes wrong in a transaction, you know what? Be the first one to call and say, hey, I screwed up, or something happened, or whatever, but get it off the plate.
I get that it's not hard for you to get on the phone and do that, but for people who are, let's call them phone shy, when there is a mistake in the business, it's me. I made a mistake. I don't want to call the seller. Give me the advice that gets me on the phone.
The advice to get you on the phone? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call you up and say, hey, Amy, I got to share something with you. I screwed up. We're going to get it fixed. Don't worry about it. But I screwed up. Here's what it is. And then I'll go through it, and then I'll come back. So basically, you tell them what you're going to tell them. You tell them. Then you tell them what you told them.
That's a good old formula that is as useful today as it ever was.
Yep. And then you just work through the system and say, okay, here's what we can do about it. Do you have any ideas, suggestions, thoughts? Ask them questions. Don't be the one just telling them everything. Mm-hmm. Throw it out there and say, what would you suggest we do? I'm looking for help here as well.
What happens when you put that ball in their court?
Most of the time they cave. They're willing to say, hey, I'll don't worry about it, Jim. We'll pay for it. I know you didn't do it on purpose, or whatever the case. Who knows what the scenario was. Mm-hmm. But most of the time they'll jump in and be problem solvers with you.
Have you been able to transfer that ability to your team?
Trying, and that's one of the hardest things to do, because people don't like to be that forward most of the time. Mm-hmm. They want to soft shoe everything, try to, make it seem not as bad. You're better off to make it seem a heck of a lot worse and then bring it back to reality. So it's a lot easier. Same way with listing houses, when people want to go way overboard or whatever the case is, I use all kinds of things. Howard had a lot of great things, but, people go, well, should I do this? I would. Just simple things that are just good scripts to get them on board with you.
You know what I appreciate about you, Jim, is that one of our instructors back in the day called it dare to suck. You have no fear of failing. And I think that's pretty amazing. What are some of the biggest fails that you've had that gave you the biggest learnings?
Oh, my goodness. The biggest fails. I don't know that I've had, well, when you lose a lot of money, that's a big fail. Mm-hmm. So then it's time to really step back and really start analyzing where are we? What do we need to do? What do we need to put in place? one of my key things that I've done with my team and everything for years, as well as myself, is people say it's impossible. You know, you hear that and I go, you're absolutely right. It is impossible. But if it were possible, how would you do it? And then just play it back, do a lot of questioning, fail. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't like to look at my failures, but move on quick.
I get that.
You know, make decisions quick and slow to change them, or be the other way around.
You have referenced multiple times things of a financial nature. What is your rhythm or cycle for evaluating your financials? Are you looking at a P&L on a monthly basis?
That's where I suck.
Okay.
I figured just get the snowball going big enough where it doesn't really matter. But I do watch the numbers. Each week I have different ways of doing it versus the way it should be done.
I'm not interested in the shoulds, so don't should on yourself. I want to know what works for Jim may work for somebody who's watching right now.
I have my staff give me an analyze. How much money do I have in each and every one of my accounts every Monday morning?
So that's better than a monthly P&L.
Well, it lets me know if I got any damn money in the bank. You know, but the thing is I can see it rise and down. But if there's all of a sudden a quick shove down, why? You know, then I can start questioning things of that nature. So I don't spend as much time on the financials as I should. There's no question I don't. But I'm very good at the numbers of knowing where they should be based on just pure numbers, because it's just a law of averages if you actually figure it all out. And so I'll do things like that because I know how much money should be coming in, what should be taking place. Couple of things that I would always tell people to do is never do what I do. From the standpoint of, no, these are some of the fails because they're fun and exciting at the end of the year. You take somebody that's got a whole bunch of rental properties. Funny thing is, at the end of the year, there's taxes due, you know, the property taxes. Okay, so you should put your money, this is the should put your money in your escrow account for yourself, or have the bank hold it, whatever the case is. So when the taxes come due, you have the money for taxes to pay them. You know, it's fine when you only have a couple and you only have to come up with a couple $1,000s. It's a whole different thing when you have to come up with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to come up to pay the taxes. Then it's a different issue. So escrow your monies. Same with insurance. You know, have that stuff in place. But, you know, I've always been one of those that I wanted all my money working for me all the time. So in essence, all the tax and escrow monies that quote should be in the escrows, I was buying more properties and parlaying it and just moved it up the ladder. And so then you just have different issues down the road. But, you know, there's one of your fails. Don't do that. Just put your money away.
As you are looking forward now with your team, what are you hoping for them to discover in the next year or so?
Well, a couple of things I want them to discover is, one, they definitely need to own some rental property. You know, they need to invest in themselves. But you can lay it all out, but again, they have to be the ones to take the reins and go do it. Education's the same way, technology, everything is up to you. You have to decide whether you want it. But I want them to pick that up, because I know if they do, then when they get to be 65, by the way, I just turned 65, so I'm officially
Congratulations.
old and on Medicare now. So, you know, it's another milestone. But then when they get to the older ages, they have their stuff in place so that they can go play. They can go travel. They can go do those things.
Great.
And not just feel like they have to work until they're 70, 80, 90 years old, you know. There's a lot more to life.
Choose to versus have to is a much happier way to live.
Absolutely.
We haven't talked at all about your marketing or how you're bringing business in. Obviously, you've got a high percentage of repeat referral business. But what are some of the things you've done to generate business outside of that?
Well, I wasted a lot of money on Zillow and Homes.com and Realtor.com, and I've come to the realization I still spend some money on them. I mean, it's in essence, it still gives a bad lead to an agent so they can go screw it up and, maybe catch one here and there. But as far as some of our main marketing, it's more picking up the phone and calling your past clients, just being involved out there. We're now starting to do some of the stuff that we used to do all the time, the postcards and things. The first of the year, I always do the thing for taxes and a copy of their closing statement so they've got it, and remind them of homesteads, that even though it's already signed up for them. It's just another reminder.
Sure.
But we still do all that. We still do I do Dave Beeson's letter writer, but I've been doing that forever. And yes, they are outdated. We've tweaked a bunch of them, and then we've gone away from them. But now we're going back to some of our postcards and just be in front of the people. But I'm also looking at doing my transition change as far as the team, because it's Jim Cleveland Home Team and has been forever. Every time you see me, you'll see me. Every one of my photos, I'm on the phone. I've done branding in that part that nobody will copy me. Camo, phone, and slogan of on the go, making things happen. Those are my three main ones. And so people know me in town by those. And we still drive those, but changing some of the branding from our Jim Cleveland Home Team to possibly, I don't know, we're still going to come up with something. So if anybody's got any ideas, either Home Team or Decatur Home Team, I don't know. We got the transition.
We could have a coaching
somehow.
session on that, Jim. I have thoughts.
All right.
But you've established a brand, and I would say this for all of you out there when you're making that consideration, it's the amount of time of the transition and the branding transition.
I figure it takes
if
3 to 5
Cleveland is a
years.
household name in your market, that's a saleable asset. Has value. So
Right.
you may or may not want to get rid of the name.
Don't know
Maybe
yet.
drop the first name, and maybe
Right.
it's Cleveland Group instead of Cleveland Home Team.
Yeah.
We could talk about that.
All right.
What other things are you doing to bring business in the door? You're very involved in your community.
That other things to bring it in, we're starting to do some down at the Star Power Conference. I got my Pivo. Okay. I've been reluctant to do video. I've always kind of been reluctant, but where I found myself where I wasn't reluctant is when I'm sitting in my deer stand. And in my deer stand, I would always do my posts, and I'd just do a little quick video and, sitting up there, I'm waiting for the deer. It's a great day to be buying a house, but I'm out here working, whatever, stupid stuff. And I got more comments and hits and stuff on that, and even got people say, hey, when you get out of the tree, give me a call. I want to sell my house. It's being there, but I was always reluctant to do video or anything. I do a lot of text messaging
Okay.
to people, just touching base, things of that nature.
What reaction are you getting from people? I've heard people say, I don't know if I should be texting.
Oh, I think texting's the best way to go. For me, just dropping a text because they can respond or not respond, and that's up to them, but you're not intruding. So like if you're really busy, they're not going to look at their text now, they'll look at their text later, where they're probably about a 95% open rate, whereas an email is 25% open rate if you're lucky. If you build it up to 40, you're like a huge success. So I'm not a big emailer. We do email just because it's there and it's easy. But text messaging is probably my favorite. As far as if not talking to them, my favorite is picking up the phone and calling people. I'm a phone guy.
Clearly.
Yeah.
With all that you've been through and the challenges that you've been through, you're still so positive and happy all the time.
Choices. happy or not. I choose to be happy all the time. But I've been blessed in so many ways and so many different ways. Why I'm here, God, I've already used up 5 of my 9 lives, so I figure I got 4 left. I didn't tell you about the other 4. But yeah, there's been 4 other times I probably shouldn't be here either. This last one was the closest to being gone, but I'm blessed.
You sure are, and so are we. I'm so glad you said yes to this interview. We'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to your beautiful wife, if you want to do that real quick.
Absolutely. Diane, she is the bestest thing ever happened.
She puts up with you. She's pretty much an angel walking the earth.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. We got a love story there that is unbelievable. And yeah, it's true blessing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for finally saying yes. I know Howard asked you 3 times and you turned him down. So Star Power is relentless, and really appreciate all you're bringing to the table. And I'm excited for people to get to meet you face to face and learn more about what you're up to.
Well, now I am coming back next year to Utah because I moved my hunting trip to Africa so I can be in Utah.
Right on.
So
Well, we're
got those things moved around, but
Grateful
now
to have
there's
you.
that new inspiration about, okay, wait, do I retire yet? I'm still having a lot of fun. And as long as I'm having fun, I'll probably keep doing it without a doubt. Maybe at different levels, but definitely going to stay. I mean, Star Power's been the life and the fun for me. I mean, after going back, I was like Ralph Roberts had mentioned, after being gone for 18 years, well, I hadn't been there since 08 was the last one. Wasn't it? Something like that.
09 in Denver was Howard's last one.
Okay. And so I haven't been back since then. And it was like old home week walking through. You know, I mean, you
With
just.
all a bunch of fresh, bright new faces, too.
The only thing that was different was everybody else looked older. I don't understand. But no, it was so awesome just seeing everybody and reconnecting. And Sam Miller was there. I mean, we're going all the way back to the beginning and seeing a lot of people. It was a lot of fun. And
Well, thanks for being a part of the next generation of Star Power. Thank you for all you give, for your huge heart, which you wear on the outside of your body. And if you picked up anything of value out of this interview, which I don't know how you couldn't, please tell somebody you know that they need to be a part of the Star Power family, whether it's joining the club, coming to our annual conference, or attending one of our universities, even hiring a coach. We'd love to have you be a part of Star Power. On behalf of Jim and all of our fellow stars, thank you so much for staying with us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next interview.